Hi! So despite yesterday's disaster with throwing blue dye all across my kitchen, I managed to dye up these small skeins of yarn in each of the pure dye colours that I have available, which you can see now. And the winning vote on the yarn video is the blue yarn with the earthy tones. So today I'm going to attempt that. Now, I've watched a lot of YouTube videos to try and figure out the best way to do this and to learn different dyeing techniques. So I think what I'm going to do is do kind of a half and half speckle dye. So put it in first with the top of the yarn barely submerged under the water, put some speckle some dye on, and then flip it over and do the other colour on the other side. So we shall see how this turns out. It's definitely going to be a bit of an experiment, and we will, you know, make things up a little bit as we go. But yeah, fingers crossed it turns out okay. So getting myself all set up and ready. I've got a pan of water here, just heating up, ready to dye. This yarn at the back has been soaking for I think at least 24 hours now. I might have even put it in the night before, ahead of potentially dyeing yesterday, so that's had a really good time to soak. I've got the dyes I'm planning on using here, along with some white vinegar to spray on the top. I was going to dilute some citric acid and find a little bottle to spray that on with, but when I was in the shop I saw that, and you can use white vinegar instead of citric acid, so figured I'd make my life a little bit easier for myself in whatever way that I can. So can't find my citric acid. Where's it gone? I had put it back in the office, so I've just gone and got that. And in here, I am going to start with half a cup, I think, because I don't want dye to set too much on the bottom. I mainly want it to set on the top. But I don't mind a little bit of spread. So I'm going to start by doing the blue, because I then want to sprinkle on any lighter areas that are left. So if there is any leakage, that's fine, because I think it will add a nice variegated tone, and the other sprinkle colours should still appear quite well on the top. So I've added in my citric acid, water's coming up to heat, just turned it down. Mix the citric acid in there so that it's well dissolved. Right. Got my trusty apron on, because I am a disaster, so need all the protection I can get. Now I'm going to put the yarn into that pan and see if I need any more water in there, because I want it to be semi-submerged but not fully submerged. I've got various ties on here just to try and keep it all together so that it doesn't get too tangled up. One thing I do need to quickly go and get is a cable tie so that I can easily lift it out without burning myself. So I just have these reusable cable ties which you can adjust and take off to help reduce on plastic waste where possible. So I'm just going to pop that on here. keep it nice and loose so that it doesn't stop any colour transference. Squeeze out the excess water and then pop this yarn in. Now I've used a smaller pan because I kind of want it a bit squashed so that there's areas that are up and areas are down, so that the colour hits the yarn in different ways. Or do I want the bigger pan? Let me see how it looks in the bigger pan. Need to heat up this water first. From the research I've done, yarn, I think, let's hope, is better going from cold to hot and not hot to cold. So because that other water was cold, I don't want to move it from the hot water into the cold water. So I'm just going to heat up that hot water briefly so that I can kind of move it from hot to hot. I'm going to turn the oven on and try and get that heated to a really low heat if possible, because with this speckled dyeing effect, you don't want to keep boiling it from the bottom in order to set the dye, because it will fry the yarn at the bottom of the pan. So we're lucky that with our oven it has a steam setting on it. So I'm going to turn the oven onto that setting and get it heated up, so that once I've done the first sprinkle, I can put it in there for a while to let it set. So now that I have some steam coming off of this other pan, I think the water's probably hot enough for me to transfer the yarn over so that I can take a look at how it sits in that container rather than this one. Cable time means I'm not burning my fingers on the hot water, and I've commandeered some chopsticks from the kitchen. I think this pan might work better with slightly less water. So I'm just going to tip a little bit of the water out and then add in some citric acid. Also, please, no one use this as like a how-to for doing these things. I'm doing this purely off of what I've learned off of YouTube videos. So I will link the accounts that I've used to teach myself in the comment section below, and tag them in the video, because they've been really helpful for me to kind of teach myself what I should be doing or potentially should be doing. But this is my first time trying to do this, so this could end up a complete disaster. Glove is on, and we are going to go for the kind of pinch and sprinkle method. Yeah, wish me luck. So I've sprinkled that dye on there. You can just about see it there. There's a lot of leakage into the water, so I don't know how this is going to work. But we will spray on the vinegar and hope for the best. I'm a bit too scared to move it. So I think what I'm gonna do, rather than putting it in the oven, is I'm gonna put a baking tray on the top of it and turn the temperature right down, possibly move it to a smaller burner on the back. And yeah, hope for the best, pray, all of that fun stuff. So I spent half an hour and I've just come to check on what it's doing. I very much left the room because I couldn't handle the stress of not knowing what was going on, and I didn't want to keep taking the lid off. So I've just come in and it is boiling away under there, so I think this could be a minor disaster when it comes to checking what the wool is like to use. But let's see what it looks like. Oh, that is blue. That is very blue. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. At some point this camera might stop wobbling, so apologies. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna have to leave it for a bit longer. I've turned the heat off because, yeah, I don't want it to just keep boiling under there. There's still kind of raw speckles on the top. None of the speckled blue has massively worked, I don't think. There's a bit of speckle, but a lot of it has just set. I'm debating whether to take it out and put it into the smaller tub. Mainly because I don't want it to keep sitting on all of that blue. You know what? Let's do it. This is an experiment. See what happens. So this is the water that I took it out of earlier on. So that's already got citric acid in. Let's just bring that back up to heat. I think the best way to lift this out is there's kind of speckles here, here and here, so I need to try and make sure that they stay on the top so that they don't just end up back kind of in the water and then penetrate the water with the rest of the dye. I think that's actually probably hot enough. Right. So, through a combination of the trusty chopsticks and the zip tag, let's give this a go. Oh, the water's actually pretty clear under there. A lot clearer than I thought it was going to be. It still looked very blue. Okay. Don't know what's happening with those speckles. I don't know if the speckles have set. So I'm just going to get a spoon. And just by kind of pressing it down and dunking it, seeing what happens. I think it actually looks pretty good. When I do this on those speckled areas, there's a little bit of blue still coming off. But not as much as I had feared. So I am just going to kind of shuffle this back in. The water's now hot. So I think I'm just going to put the baking tray back on top for the rest of the half an hour, but with no more heat, and we'll see what happens. You can hear it kind of boiling under there, so let's turn that off, put the baking tray back on top. That will hopefully keep the heat in, and yeah, give it another half an hour and we'll see what happens at the end. Right, so the hour is now up. Oh no, it looks like there was some food on the bottom of that baking tray, which has now fallen into the dye. But that's all right, because I'm gonna give this a rinse to rinse out any remaining blue dye. I think it's pretty well set. It's taken up a lot of the dye, so there's not a great deal of kind of the white bits left. But that's all right. We'll see what happens. I think I'm gonna stick with this smaller pan for the next one so that there's less water in there. Yeah, it's all about experimenting, seeing what happens. So yeah, I'm just gonna rinse this off. It wouldn't be an Amy dyeing video, of course, without turning blue. So that's pretty good for me, I think. Right, this has got some food in it, so got rid of that, and trusty takeaway tubs. I'm just gonna rinse this out to make sure that any remaining blue dye that's in there has gone. So that's had a good scrub. Put some water back in the bottom. Now, what I think I'm gonna do is, because I only want the dye to take on certain areas, is instead of putting citric acid in the water, I think I'm just gonna spray it, or spray some vinegar just onto the parts where I'm gonna sprinkle, because that's where I want the dye to take. So I'm just gonna lay this in here and try and lift out some of the lighter coloured areas where I want the other colours. So you can see there, it's mainly the white areas that I've got left up. So that there is water in there to keep it moist, but it's not as submerged as it was before. So I'm just going to put the heat on low just to get that heating up. Let's get rid of this pan. And yeah, so I've got my trusty white vinegar and I'm just going to spray it on the top. And we're going to start with the gold. So I'm kind of liking how it's looking at the moment. I don't know how much it's going to end up looking like the original inspiration image, but let's see if I can do this without everything going wrong. Oh, there you go. You can see here, I think it's looking quite nice. So I really need to sort this tripod out. Yeah, I am debating. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it with some foil and put it in the oven on a low temperature for it to set as best as possible. I'm not going to add any more acid or anything to it, I think, because I quite want the sprinkles to kind of stay sprinkly. I don't want them to seep in. So we'll go back to the steam oven, so the oven's back on on a really low temperature. It's just kind of the steam settings I mentioned before. Let's cover this with some foil. Just to keep as much of the water that's in there as possible. And yeah, put it in the oven for a bit and hope for the best. I don't really know what happens with baked wool, but we'll find out. Wish me luck, and I'll see you on the other side. So it's only been 15 minutes, but I thought I'd come and have a check. Number one, that the steam hasn't all gone from the oven, and just see how things are going. I think it's okay. I might add a little bit more yellow whilst I'm here, because the yellow seems to have kind of disappeared into the rest of the colours. And those that know me know that yellow is my favourite colour. So yeah, gonna sprinkle on a bit more of the gold. Club back on. Still liquid in there that is brown. So I'm hoping that doesn't just turn the blue brown. Do I attempt to strain it off and put in some fresh water? You know what? I'm going to, because I don't want things just turning brown. Some water, so there's not much water in there, but still enough that hopefully it will help steam it. Oil is back on and back into the oven it goes. I think the steam's doing okay, so I'm going to come back in half an hour. Right, so it's been half an hour, so let's take it out and have another look. Ooh. This is how it's looking. The water is, whoops. A bit yellowy brown, but not too bad. So again, gonna rinse it off in hot water and take a look. So I got the big pan out again because it's easier to show you. But I think it's looking pretty good. There's part of me that's tempted to do a little bit more on some of these areas, but I really can't decide. Like this area here where the hangy bit's been, there's quite a lot of white area there. I would just love a bit more. Just like some areas to just be like an orangey yellow. You know what? I think I'm gonna do it. This is me having a play and an experiment. So if I don't do it now, when am I gonna do it? I did spill some orange down in this section, which I'm a bit worried about, so I'm just going to try. No, I'm going to leave. Yeah, no. Oh. Right, everything may go a bit green, but so be it. This is just going to go in as it is. Sorry, I forgot to press record, but I've just got this out of the oven. And we're looking alright. There's still kind of yellow dye leaking out, but I think I'm going to give this a wash because I don't want it turning green. So here is the final wet yarn. There are quite a lot of greeny bits in it, but there's also quite a lot of nice of these earthy kind of combinations in here. I think next time I'm tempted to add some purple in there maybe, just in some of the bluey bits. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just leave this on a slow simmer, probably for another half an hour, and then yeah, I will show you the final finished product tomorrow once it's dry.
So here you can see the finished yarn that is now dried. I'm pretty happy with it. I think in person some of these kind of blue areas don't pop quite as much as it looks on camera here, so on my next attempts I think I'd rather use a bit of the cyan rather than just the turquoise to make that pop out a little bit more. And same with the yellow areas, I think they did turn a bit brown in the end, and I would have preferred a bit more of the bold yellow. But yeah, for a first attempt, I think I did all right, and I look forward to the next time.